Hello everyone, another 12-hour LEGO build challenge starts right now. This last weekend, the poll was very close. Gladiators did win out in the end, although Adventurers was right there behind it. In fact, I think Adventurers did win on Facebook. So the fact that it was so close suggests that these are really good themes, so I think that we'll be seeing Adventurers and Castle Lion Knight Crusaders again soon, because these are two themes that I really like, and people seem to resonate quite a bit with them. But I'm really excited to begin working on this, at least part of a Gladiator arena. I don't think I'll be able to accomplish a full circle in 12 hours, even if I kept it really crude and simple, which I don't really want to do. I'm thinking that this is going to be a part of an arena, or maybe more like a facade, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's go ahead and sketch it out. So I've kind of danced around the subject of a Roman gladiator arena or a Colosseum before. I've done a couple Hippodrome style builds way back when. I did a few facades for gladiator figures during me and Steven's Bro Fig Brawls, which are like a little minifig face-off challenge thing. We'll probably actually bring those back at some point. They were very fun. Point is, I've definitely kind of dabbled in this, but never completed a full thing. And that's not even what we're going to do today. We're just going to get a really nice piece of a Colosseum built. That initial wall is the most important thing. And then we also want to have a little bit of grandstands going on in the back. And then that's about it. You have pretty much a flat, tan, sandy surface for the gladiators to fight on, and then you're pretty good. So this should be relatively simple, but I've said that about a couple builds in the past during this series, so we'll see how it goes. We're going to want a pretty flat front edge in order to get as close to the table and the camera as close to the action as possible and be able to control that viewing angle. This build is going to be much more geared towards that one shot, the one-shot wonder, because the past few builds in this series have all been, you can take a picture of the whole thing. It's a pretty complete mock, at least from the one side. This is going to be like nothing but Lego should be in the frame. So we'll see if we can accomplish that. And so you have probably 2 square base plates and a half base plate on the corner. Then you're going to want a wall curving like that along the back of the scene. Nice gentle arc. And then you want some grandstands going back. And this build is going to be tan, so there's not going to be too much worry about having enough pieces. The main problem is I have nice gladiators. I should be able to make a wall without too much difficulty, even a curved one. Filling the stands with people, which are going to be visible from the ground where the gladiators are fighting, is going to be a big challenge, because I don't have that many Roman-style civilian figures. They've never made anything like that. You're going to have to improvise with Jedi figures, medieval torsos, whatever you can scrounge up. And thankfully, I've kind of done this to a certain extent before, so I know which pieces work okay as an improvised Roman citizen. Yeah, that's the biggest challenge. I may end up resorting to Photoshop or other things, like the few back rows of figures be nothing like a Roman figure. That may just be very medieval looking and just kind of be a little blurred out in the background. We'll see what the best solution. I think I do want one entrance though. Let's see, should it be on one end? Or both ends? Because I think that in the Colosseum you had at least 4 main entrances, maybe more. And they would have been kind of at northeast, southwest configuration, 4 corners. So I do want to do a curve. Maybe I would have, if we have time, let's just make this a stretch goal. I have a big arched doorway over here. Just the basic wall background is enough. We could have a door with a little grate and a little bit of a raised area for, like, you could have the senators that are hosting the event, or even maybe an emperor style figure here, but probably not much farther than that. I don't think I want to do more than even a quarter of the wall and the stands going back. And the stands don't have to go back all the way, but they do have to have a nice background for the gladiators fighting. We want the camera right here, so you can see the action and you have a nice background. We're basically just making a big background for some gladiators to fight for. I think that's a pretty decent sketch. Let's go ahead and try to build this now. So our start time is 11:15-ish, because that's what it says on my watch now. We haven't started building yet. We're also going to be attempting to live stream for at least a part of this build, just as a experiment, a test to see if it works. It could be great, it could be really boring and nobody watches it. We'll find out. But we're gonna test for at least an hour probably. Could be longer if the equipment lasts. We'll see. Okay, we are not too far into the project, it's about 12. We actually started more like around 11:40 because of setting up the live stream, so which is currently live. So interesting, we're having a little deja vu moment with ourselves. But yeah, so we've gotten the base plates down. That's the size we want to fit. We want a nice curving wall and maybe a gate on the right side or left side if we want to. We're really going to rely on these hinge plates, these nice 1x4 or 2x2 hinge plates, depending on how you hinge them. These are going to be our bread and butter. These are going to be what happens behind the scenes to make that wall curve and still be structurally sound. What I've got so far was based around a 4x4 plate and then have the hinges on either side with bricks on top to help attach it. And that is looking nice from this angle, but the problem is I think it's too steep a curve. It's happening too quickly. I think there would actually be a great size of a curve for a 32x32 arena, but we've got almost a 64x64. We have almost a 64x64 space. That's going to be too sharp a curve. So I'm going to expand this by a few bricks, and I think that will solve our problem. Probably just by 1, 2. So instead of using a 4x4 as our core, we'll switch to a 4x6. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's go ahead and execute it and see how that works. All right, we are at the second mock update so far. We've already got the scene a bit bigger than I wanted it to be. We are about an entire 32x32 base plate too large off the back, in my opinion. However, I love how that curve looks. I think it looks super clean. I love the entrances on either side. I figured if I keep these a little bit smaller and more subtle, it'll still make sense. We'll see. I would love this corner to not be here. I would literally take a hacksaw and just take it off if I was less scrupulous with my pieces. Yeah, I might be able to figure something out. I might do a half base plate and a piece and just kind of brick built some plates. This is gonna go up one plate level at least so I can have some texture for sand and stuff. The wall is looking good, like I said. I was looking at some reference art from Gladiator inside the arena views, and they often show the walls being painted red or having inset sections where that's red or some other color. And I like that a lot. That might work pretty well. I'm trying to think of how to do it so it doesn't interrupt the nice seams we've created with those hinge plates. So a lot to think about as we move forward. Do we want this corner in the front? How much do we want to go up in the stands? How big do we want these gateways to be? How do we want the door mechanism? Lots of things to look forward to. Let's continue working on it. 2 hours in. It is now 1:40. We started at 11:40. We have a very secure foundation for the Roman Gladiator arena pretty much done, the bottom layer that is. The archway on either side I think really helps frame it nicely. I love the curve of the wall. It's pretty secure, looking good. We've even got some little side channels going on. The Colosseum is just like a maze underneath, so you can imagine all the tunnels and rooms that would be there. A little bit of a hint on the sides for that. I'm starting to like the square shape of it a little bit more as we go along. We'll see how that continues. Going to be experimenting with some red or dark orange inset areas here, and then we're going to cap off where the audience would not be able to reach down, and then have at least one layer of stands going back all the way around. I don't know how much further I want to go up higher, how much structural stability, how much room, how much time, we'll see. But I know we can get at least one good solid row of seating for a bunch of minifigs to go on. And then you can have some pretty epic shots, I imagine, for the gladiators to be fighting with a cool background. It's already looking pretty cool. Feeling pretty decent about the time. There's still, of course, a lot of textural details to do on the sand below and tons of minifigures and grandstands. The more structurally challenging elements will be once you get further back and these wedges start to kind of separate, and where do you snap it down if it's on a weird angle. So all that nightmare of architectural assembly is going to happen later. But because it's getting a little bit late, I'm going to go take a quick lunch break, and then we'll come back and work on this some more. Might even restart the live stream because, unfortunately, the equipment was doing fine. Camera and mic were doing great, but my Wi-Fi cut out for like 10 minutes, and then the stream just died. It wasn't able to reconnect at all, even with a Wi-Fi hotspot from the phone. So the stream went great for like 45 minutes, which is fine. That's basically what I set out to do. But I'd love to keep going, stream some more. We'll see if I can restart that later this afternoon, maybe around 3 or 4. All right, we are back with another update. It is now a little after 3, and we still have a little more than 8 hours left to build, which is not bad. We have a pretty solid wall for a Roman Colosseum here. We've got the entrances established already. We've got the inset areas with nougat. I think it's medium nougat is the correct term for this color. It's this nice kind of orangey beige color, and it has a nice brick texture in there, so it looks nice. I think it works good for what this is. I'm not 100% sure I love the flat edges up here in contrast to the arches over the doorway, but this isn't inaccurate. It's only a small indentation where this railing would be, so I'll think about it. It wouldn't be that hard to throw an arch in there, I think. Anyway, I'm not gonna think about it too much. Up here, you've got a nice place for the minifigures to stand and watch all the spectacle of the arena. This is about as far back as I want to go because we've already kind of reached the edge of the base plate right there. I think that's actually a complete match top to bottom. So don't want to go too much farther back. My brother came in, checked it out, and he thought, oh, you should do a white layer up at the top. I'm like, possibly, but that's already getting further and higher than I think I want to go for what is essentially a big background for the minifigures to battle in. So we'll see. I don't think I'm going to go too much further than that back. In between these areas, it's just kind of filled in with cheese slopes and plates. It's not perfect, but they will be basically covered with minifigures, hopefully, either physically in real life or digitally over Photoshop. We'll find out which is the best solution. I think we can get quite a few figures made. So we're going to finish off the stands. We're going to finish off these 2 gateway areas, fill in the inside, support all the back end. Right now it's just kind of hanging over, and it seems actually pretty strong still. But we'll put a little support under each spot so I can put the minifigures down without any hesitation. Once that backdrop is done, we can make a ton of spectators and a few more gladiators and really have some dynamic posing going on here. That's about it for now, though. Let's go ahead and finish the rest of the 8 hours of this build. All right, we are now at around 4:30 in the afternoon, and we've got a pretty sizable Roman Colosseum chunk here. We've cleaned up quite a bit around the edges. We've added a black background for those doorways, so it makes it look a lot deeper and darker. I'll probably do the same on the left over here soon. We've added a couple of Roman figures and a few gladiators on the inside to figure out what it looks like, figure out the scale, and it seems very nice, very large. It'd be very epic to have these figures fighting down there. One thing that I'm thinking about now as we get along into time, we still have about 7-ish hours left. I'm still not 100% satisfied with the space right there. I think that it definitely needs something there to help break up all that tan, because otherwise it's a lot of tan going on. But it feels too thin, rectangular shaped. It might need to be a little bit taller, a little bit more deliberate. I think it could be worked on there. I'm not sure exactly how, but I want to figure it out. Everything else is working great. I'm going to experiment with changing out that panel, maybe making it different somehow. We'll see. Liking it a lot. Gonna have to build a lot of figures up on the background to make it make sense. It's a big build. It's turning out pretty well though. We'll keep working on it and see if we can refine it a little bit. All right, time for a little update. It is now almost 6 o'clock, and we're basically a little past halfway at this point. We still have about 5 hours plus to do some things here to finish up this creation. I've arranged a bunch of gladiators here in the center. I added a few more that weren't built previously to kind of set up the build. Besides finishing up the gladiators, 2 daunting tasks remain. We need to tile off the ground almost completely, leaving a few studs for the gladiators to have somewhere to stand. We also need to fill the stands with overjoyed spectators. That shouldn't be too bad. There's not an overwhelming amount of space up there. And in worst case scenario, I could Photoshop a few copies of sections in order to fill it out nicely. But I think we'll be able to build enough filler figures for the back. And I'm really happy with how the gladiators look already. You can see just with a little bit of zoom, that's a pretty dynamic pose. I'm pretty happy with how it's looking so far. You could even catch a little bit of audience right there. Yeah, that's working pretty nicely. There's a little bit of a gap right here. It's kind of bothering me, but I don't really feel like rebuilding the whole thing just to solve a gap. And I might just Photoshop that out a little bit. This unusual curved wall isn't necessarily a legal building technique, so I'm not going to overthink one section that's a little bit off kilter. But not too bad. From most angles, you can't really tell if you're not paying attention too much. But because it's almost 6 and I'm kind of starving over here, I'm going to go get a dinner break and then we'll resume building for the last couple hours. All right, gang, the Roman Gladiator Arena Colosseum is going pretty well. We've got a nice audience put in there. I would love to have another 50 to 100 figures, but I don't know if I'm going to have time to scrounge up more pieces. Thankfully, all these random torsos, a lot of Jedi, a lot of medieval figures, a couple actual Roman ones, like 1 or 2 that are actually would fit within the theme, but the rest are close enough, and that's gonna be fine. Nothing that stands out too crazy except for an Easter egg here and there. So I think the audience is pretty good. We've cleaned up and refined these indented areas quite a bit. We've used some unique slopes, and I think it looks a lot better. It's not perfect, but I think it conveys the impression better now. We've got our Roman guards posted around to make sure no gladiators escape or try anything funny. And we've begun putting the sand details around the terrain here. We should have enough tiles to pretty much cover this whole thing. Once that's done, I'm gonna pretty much consider this mock done. I might get a few brightly colored flags and give them to a bunch of the spectators so they look like they're cheering. And that should be about it. And while some of the areas of this mock feel a little unfinished, that's kind of the point. We started this build out knowing that it would be designed for the shot, which is already looking really nice from this perspective. It's designed for that close-up shot with mostly Lego in the background. That's definitely what we've achieved here. If we look at our original sketch, we've already accomplished basically what we set out to do, and maybe even a little bit more. We could do a little bit more off the back, maybe some columns or some banners or something, but I kind of like the close-up nature of this environment here. So I think we're just going to try and finish up what we can. It is now getting towards 8 o'clock. We have less than 4 hours left. Let's go ahead, put some more tiles down, finish this terrain off, put a few detailed flags and bits with the audience, and let's call it a night. Wow, long day of building, nearly done, 8:45 p.m., which means we have a little less than 3 hours left to build. I'm pretty happy with where we're at though. We've got a very nice scene, we've got a wall, we've got a big audience, we've got a bunch of gladiators having a great battle in the center here. I like the texture of the sand on the ground. I like the kind of muted colors of the background to help the figures stand out. And above that, you've got a very detailed top to the background. So I'm liking the composition, the way it's laid out. The one little crack right here gave me a little twitch in my eye, but I'll work around it. I'll figure out a solution. You probably won't even notice in the finished pictures at all. There's certainly things we could have done to expand it. I would have loved to have more figures. I just don't think I can scrounge any more up without spending copious amounts of time digging for pieces. Steven suggested I do more background, but I'm really just ready to wrap this up, ready to call this a mock. It's overcooked at this point. We're ready to call it done. Let's prepare it for those pictures and some cinematic video. We'll be good to go. Alrighty, the Gladiator Arena. We're gonna call it complete here, guys. This is a pretty finished mock. This is everything we went out to accomplish in our original sketch and our original idea. There's certainly areas that I would love to continue on more. At the same time, my phone's almost dead. I'm really running out of steam, so we're gonna have to call this the end of the night. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. This is a great looking action scene, a nice compositional shot, lots of cool figures, lots of cool gladiators, lots of good action to see. Just don't look at the back, that's pretty awful. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Thank you everyone who supports me as a member. And thanks for watching the live stream too, if you're able to catch that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.